There's a silence so loud it echoes in the mind of the one who took you for granted. It's the silence that follows the absence of your presence, your calls, your messages, your energy. It's when the space you once filled becomes a void they can't ignore. Ghosting, when from a place of power, isn't petty or immature. It's strategic. In stoic power, ghosting is the art of disappearing without drama, without warning, and without leaving a trail. For emotional, breed, seared moods. It's pulling yourself out of their leaf so it's completely that they have no choice but to feel the difference between having you and not. And here's the truth. People don't feel regret when you argue. They don't feel regret when you explain your pain or defend your worth. They feel regret when you vanish. When they can no longer access you, when they're forced to confront life without benefits of your presence. Because it thus, when they realize the attention, the warmth, the reliability they once treated as background noise was a privilege they no longer have. If you've ever been taken for granted, if you've ever been the one giving while they only took this ISIR message. Watch until the end to understand why disappearing is sometimes the most powerful move you can make. Undeafen these words already speak to you like this video. Subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment. Bellow saying, my absence is my statement. 1. Your silence says more than your words now. Let's begin. Number 1. Your silence says more than your words. Words can be argued with. It can be twisted, ignored, or drowned out by someone who's not ready to listen. But silence is undeniable. When you ghost her, you remove the one thing she still has control over, your ear. You're no longer there to hear her excuses, her justifications, or her half-hearted attempts at keeping you around without committing. The conversation ends not because you ran out of things to say, but because you decided nothing more needed to be said. Silence, first reflection, in a way confrontation never can. It makes her replay every moment, every conversation, every subtle shift in your tone, trying to figure out when she lost you. It plants a seed, often certainty, that grows with every passing day. You remain quiet, and here's the part that stings most. Your silence tells her exactly what your words never could, that she no longer has the same access to you, that her actions spoke louder than anything she could say now, and that you've moved on in ways she can't see, and maybe can't too. Attention is the oxygen of connection, Yundo. Number 2. Attention is the oxygen of connection. Every connection, no matter how strong, survives on one thing, attention. It's the oxygen that keeps it alive. Your messages, your calls, your presence, your time, all of it feeds the bond. When you ghost her, you cut off the oxygen supply. And here's the thing she might not. Haven't noticed your presence when it was constant? She might have taken for granted that you'd always be there. Always ready to reply, always willing to give her a piece of your day. But when that supply vanishes, she feels it like a sudden gasp for air. People allow you what's freely available. But to kite away in its importance, Becco mes crystal clear. The absence of your attention forces her to feel the relative, losing it. Ghosting works because it shifts you from being an option to being a memory. And memories can't give hearth validation your presence once did. That's when the regret begins to set. In Buka, she realizes the air she thought 3. Ghosting reveals true intentions was everywhere was coming from you. Number 3. Ghosting reveals true intentions. When you step back, the truth steps forward. Ghosting strips away the comfort of constant access. And what happens next reveals everything you need to know about her intentions. If she values you, she'll notice your absence immediately. She'll reach out. She'll try to reconnect. She'll show some sign that you mattered more than just a passing convenience. But if she disappears as easily as you did, you've just uncovered something important. She was never truly invested to begin with. This is the quiet test most people are too afraid to give because deep down they fear the answer. They fear learning. Someone they gave their time and heart to could simply move on without a second thought. But here's the reality. It's better to know now than to keep investing in a connection that wasn't cited from the start. Ghosten doesn't just make her feel the loss. It gives you the clarity you need. It shows you who would fight for your presence, who is only there for the benefits for. It removes the power struggle of it. Number 4, it removes the power struggle. Most failing connections turn into a subtle tug-of-war. You pull for attention, they pull away. You try to explain, they deflect. Raise your voice, they raise their walls. The more resistance you'll feel, and that's how the cycle stays alive. Ghosting ends that cycle instantly. You don't just loosen your grip, you drop the rope entirely. In that moment, the dynamic changes. There's no more chase, no more negotiation, no more desperate push to be heard. She's left standing on the other side with nothing to pull against, and the absence of that struggle forced her to realize that she's no longer in control of the pace, the tone, or the outcome. When you ghost from a place of stoic power, you're not running away from conflict. You're stepping out of it completely. You're saying without words, I won't wrestle for a place in your life. If you wanted me there, you'd make 5. You shift from pursuer to mystery room number 5. You shift from pursuer to mystery. When you're always available, you're predictable. She knows when you'll call, how you'll respond, and that your attention is just a message away. Predictability kills curiosity, and curiosity is what keeps people engaged. The moment you ghost her, that pattern shatters. You go from Bung, the man who's always there, to the man she can't quite figure out anymore. Now her mind has to work overtime. Where is he? Why isn't he reaching out? Who's he with? Why doesn't he care anymore? Humans are naturally drawn to mystery best. The unknown forces the imagination to fill in the blanks. Here's the kicker. The story she builds in her head about your absence will almost always make you look more valuable than when you were present every day. When you pull back completely, you stop being part of her routine and become an unanswered question. Unanswered. Questions a Collinger than any conversation ever could. 6. It forces her to self-reflect. Number 6. It forces her to self-reflect. As long as you're present, she has someone to shift the focus onto. She can blame you, distract herself with your reactions, or avoid her own accountability by keeping the spotlight in your behavior. But when you ghost her, the mirror turns around. There's no one left to argue with, no conversation to twist, no attention to deflect. She's left alone, just her and her thoughts, and here's where regret often starts to creep in. She begins to replay the last conversations, the last messages, the last time she saw you. She starts wondering if she pushed too far, if she had dismissed you one too many times. If she'd estimated the cost of losing you. Self-reflection can be uncomfortable, even painful, because it forces a person to confront the reality of their actions without the cushion of someone else's presence. When you ghost her, you give her no choice but to sit with that discomfort. And for many, that discomfort eventually becomes regret. 7. The absence becomes the message. Number 7. The absence becomes the massage. When you ghost her, you're delivering a message without sending a single word. And unlike texts, calls, or arguments, this message can't be ignored or deleted. It lingers. It grows louder in the quiet. Your absence says what your presence never could. I'm no longer willing to give you access to me. It's a statement of value, of self-respect, as boundaries that don't bend just because a Somione notices they've been crossed. The power of this kind of message is that it's unspoken. People can argue against your words. They can twist them, deny them, or pretend they misunderstood. But absence is undeniable. It's reality, staring them in the face every time they notice you're not there. Over time, the absence stops being just a gap in their life. It becomes a constant reminder of the difference between when they had you and when they didn't. And for someone who once took you for granted, that's the sharpest sting of 8. You take back the power. Number 8, you take back Thepor. When someone thinks they can treat you however they want and still keep you around, they hold the power. They decide when you speak, how much you give, and whether you stay. Ghosting flips that dynamic in an instant. You're no longer waiting for their permission to matter. You're no longer sitting by a phone hoping for a reply. You're no longer showing up where you're not valued. In that moment, the decision is sire's, not theirs. You decide the terms, you decide the access. You decide if and when the door reopens. And the truth is most of the time it never will. This is where stoic power shines. You stopped reading to win someone over and start controlling what you allow in your life. Instead of asking, will she keep me? You ask, does she even deserve me back? That shift changes everything. Because when you take back the power, you stop playing the role she wrote for you and start writing the role you were meant to play all along. 9. You become scarce. Scarcity creates value. Number 9. You become scarce. And scarcity creates value. Anything that's abundant gets taken for granted. It's human nature. When something is always available, we stop noticing its worth. The same is true for people. When you were always there, she could reach for you anytime. Your presence was a given. But the moment you ghost her, you remove that guarantee. You become rare. Scarcity changes how people see you. It makes them revisit the moments they've overlooked. It forces them to realize that the energy, support, and attention you gave weren't endless supplies. They were gifts you chose to give, not there. Gone. Replacing them isn't as easy as they thought. Scarcity is a strange way of rewriting history in Samian's mind. The very things they once dismissed now seem priceless. The qualities they ignored now seem irreplaceable. Your absence forces them to look back and see the value they didn't protect. And that realization often hits harder than any goodbye ever could. 10. Regret always. Arrives too late. Number 10. Regret always arrives too late. Regret doesn't show up in themament. Someone loses you. In thatment, pride speaks louder. Distraction clouds their judgment. They convince themselves they'll replace you easily. But time has a way of stripping away illusions. Days turn into weeks, and weeks into months. And that's when the truth starts to seep in. They realize that people they thought could fill your place don't measure up. They realize the connection they thought was ordinary wasre. And they realize that the access they once had to you is not something they can just demand back. The cruel thing about regret is that it arrives when it's already too late to fix anything. That's exactly why it's so powerful. It's because now, no amount. Offer, no apology, no sweet words, canundo. The fact that you've moved on in stoic power is where your strength lies in knowing that you didn't need revenge, it's drama, or endless explanations. All you needed to do was walk away and let time do the rest. Ghosting from a place of strength isn't about immaturity or avoidance. It's about recognizing him. Your presence is no longer valued in making the choice to protect your peace. It's about removing yourself from games you never agreed to play. It's about reclaiming your energy, your attention, and your self-respect. And it's about understanding that sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is to say nothing at all. When you disappear, you create space not just for them to feel your absence, but for you to grow beyond the need for their approval. You give them thizulence they earned, and you give it yourself the freedom you deserve. And here's the truth. If regret comes for them, it will come long after you've stopped waiting for it. By then, you'll be so far ahead in your own life that their realization will be nothing more than background noise. If you're ready to step into that kind of power, the kind where you walk away without flinching, like this video, subscribe to the channel and comment below. My absence is my statement, because sometimes disappearing isn't the end of your story. It's the start of a better one.